The sensor officer on the Imperial station Outpost 7 frowned at his screen. Strange energy patterns had appeared at the edge of galactic hegemony space. He had never seen anything like them before. The readings pulsed with an unknown rhythm, growing stronger with each passing minute. "Commander, you need to see this," he called out. Commander Zex slithered across the deck, his scaled tail moving silently behind him. The Draconian officer peered at the display with his 4 eyes, each focusing independently on different parts of the data. "Send the readings to Central Command," he ordered. "Mark it urgent." The message traveled across subspace channels to the gleaming capital world of Imperius Prime. There, in the towering spire of the Imperial Central Command, Admiral Vexthor received the report with annoyance. He was busy preparing for the Emperor's birthday celebration and had no time for trivial border disturbances. "Sensor ghosts," he muttered, tossing the report aside. "These outer station officers are always jumping at shadows." But Junior Science Officer Krell could not dismiss the reading so easily. The young avian had graduated top of his class at the Imperial Academy. His wings twitched with excitement as he studied the data patterns. "Admiral, with respect, these are not sensor malfunctions," Krell said. "The energy signatures suggest a massive fleet using propulsion technology we've never encountered before." Admiral Vexthor's skin darkened with anger. "Impossible. No species in the galaxy possesses technology we don't know about. The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. Before Krell could argue further, the communication panel chimed loudly. The operator looked up with surprise. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the anomaly. They're requesting an audience with the Galactic Council." The Grand Council chamber was the heart of the Empire's government. 300 members from the most powerful species in the galaxy sat in rising tiers around a central speaking floor. They whispered among themselves as they waited. The Emperor himself, rarely seen at council meetings, sat on his floating throne above them all. "Who dares demand an audience without proper diplomatic channels?" asked Councillor Dravis, his tentacles waving with irritation. The massive doors at the chamber's entrance slid open. 2 figures walked in, escorted by Imperial guards. The council fell silent. The visitors looked almost like primates, but none the council recognized. "What manner of creatures are these?" the Emperor asked, his voice echoing through the chamber. The taller visitor stepped forward. He had short brown hair and wore a simple blue uniform with unfamiliar symbols on the shoulder. "My name is Paul Bennett," he said in perfect galactic standard. "This is my colleague, Lisa Morgan. We represent Earth and the United Earth Alliance. We come in peace and seek diplomatic recognition from your empire." Laughter rippled through the council chamber. "Earth?" mocked a councillor. "Never heard of it." Lisa Morgan stepped forward. She was shorter than her companion, with red hair pulled back neatly. "That's because your empire has never ventured to our arm of the galaxy. We've developed interstellar travel independently." Admiral Vexthor, standing near the Emperor's throne, sneered. "Impossible. No primitive species could develop such technology without our guidance." Paul smiled slightly. "Nevertheless, we have. And we've come to introduce ourselves properly." "And where is this mighty Earth fleet?" another councillor asked with sarcasm. "Did you two come alone in a little scout ship?" Lisa touched a device on her wrist. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed hundreds of ships in perfect formation just outside the Empire's border marker. "This is our first contact expedition force," she said calmly. "The rest of our fleet is arriving now." As they watched, the hologram updated in real time. Thousands of ships appeared, jumping in from hyperspace. Ships of various sizes and designs, all bearing the same emblem as the visitors' uniforms. The council chamber erupted in panic. "Impossible," shouted Admiral Vexthor. But the sensor readings confirmed it. A human fleet had arrived at the Empire's doorstep, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Paul Bennett stood calm and straight in the center of the council chamber. Years of military training as a Navy SEAL on Earth had prepared him for pressure, though nothing quite like this. The eyes of 300 alien counselors stared at him with emotions ranging from shock to hostility. But Paul had faced worse odds before. "How dare you bring warships to our borders without permission?" demanded Counselor Dravis, his voice booming across the chamber. "We bring a diplomatic fleet," Paul replied evenly. "Standard protocol for first contact among our people includes adequate protection." Lisa Morgan stepped forward. Her background in physics had made her the perfect choice to explain human technological development. She brushed a strand of red hair from her face and addressed the council directly. "Our records show no previous contact with your empire. Earth developed faster than light travel independently 20 years ago. Since then, we have explored and settled 17 star systems." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Emperor leaned forward on his floating throne. "Impossible," he said. "No species develops such technology without guidance. You must have stolen it." Lisa shook her head. "Not stolen, Your Majesty. Discovered. The principles of quantum folding have been theorized by human scientists for over a century." Admiral Vexthor circled the humans, studying them with suspicion. "And what do these humans want from the Galactic Empire?" "Resources, technology, recognition," Paul said simply, "and peaceful relations. The United Earth Alliance wishes to establish diplomatic ties, trade agreements, and cultural exchange." Counselor Genva, a tall blue-skinned female with 4 arms, stood up from her seat. "And if we refuse, is that why you brought your fleet? To threaten us?" Paul's expression remained neutral. "Our fleet is standard protocol, not a threat. But we will defend ourselves if necessary." Genva laughed, a high tinkling sound that echoed across the chamber. "You believe your handful of ships can stand against the might of the Empire? We command 50,000 worlds." Lisa touched her wrist device again. The holographic display in the center of the room changed, zooming out to reveal more human ships emerging from hyperspace. "As I mentioned, what you see is only our diplomatic expedition," she said calmly. "The main fleet is now arriving." The hologram showed thousands more ships appearing, arranged in precise formations. Vessels of all sizes, from small fighters to massive carriers that dwarfed even the largest Imperial dreadnoughts. The council chamber fell completely silent. A new face appeared in the hologram, a stern-looking older man with gray hair and the same uniform as Paul, but with more insignia on the shoulders. "This is Admiral Richard Collins of the United Earth Alliance flagship Liberty Dawn," Paul explained. "He commands our expedition fleet." The holographic admiral spoke, his voice filling the chamber. "Greetings to the Galactic Empire. The United Earth Alliance extends our hand in friendship and requests formal recognition of our sovereignty over our claimed systems. We hope for peaceful relations between our peoples." The Emperor's skin changed color rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. He whispered urgently to his advisors. Paul and Lisa stood quietly, waiting. They had trained for this moment for years. Earth had known about the Empire for longer than the Empire realized. Human scout ships, using stealth technology, had observed Imperial worlds for decades before deciding to make formal contact. "The Council requires time to consider your request," the Emperor finally said. "You will be provided quarters while we deliberate." As Imperial guards led them from the chamber, Paul caught snippets of panicked conversation among the counselors. "How many ships did you count? Their weapons systems, did you see them? We need to contact the outer colonies immediately." Paul exchanged a glance with Lisa. Phase 1 of humanity's introduction to the galactic community was complete. Now came the hard part, convincing the Empire that humans came in peace, while making sure they understood that peace did not mean weakness. The Emperor called an emergency council session as soon as the human delegates left the chamber. Counselors shouted over one another, their voices creating a storm of noise that echoed through the grand hall. "Silence," the Emperor commanded, his voice amplified by the room's acoustics. "This situation requires clear thinking. not panic. Admiral Vexthor stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we must gather our fleets immediately. These humans are clearly a threat." "But why now?" asked Counselor Genva. "If they have had this technology for 20 years, why reveal themselves only now?" While the council debated, a human in plain clothes moved quietly through the Imperial archives. Gregory Wright had slipped away from the diplomatic party during the confusion. As Earth's top intelligence officer, his job was to gather information while everyone was distracted by the official delegation. Greg wore a small device behind his ear that translated the Imperial text as he rapidly scanned document after document. What he found confirmed Earth's suspicions. The Empire had known about Earth for centuries, but had classified it as too violent for contact. Notes from Imperial scouts described humans as dangerously unpredictable and surprisingly resilient. One report noted with alarm that humans continued fighting wars even as they developed nuclear technology and space travel. "Recommend continued observation only. Species too aggressive for integration," read the final assessment. Greg smiled to himself. If only they knew what humans had achieved since then. Back on the flagship Liberty Dawn, military strategist Alice Donovan analyzed the data from the Imperial defense systems. Earth's stealth probes had mapped most of the Empire's military capabilities, but seeing their formations up close provided valuable new information. "Their weapons are impressive, Admiral," she reported to Richard Collins. "But their tactics are outdated. They haven't fought a real war in over 500 years. Admiral Collins nodded, his weathered face serious. "Let's hope we don't have to test that assessment, Alice. We came to talk, not fight." But in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor had already made his decision. He would not be intimidated by these newcomers, no matter how advanced their ships looked. "Send the Crimson Armada," he ordered. "Show these humans the true might of the Empire." The Crimson Armada was the pride of the Imperial fleet, 100 warships with blood-red hulls, commanded by the Empire's most decorated admiral. Their arrival at the border where the human fleet waited was meant to be an overwhelming display of power. Admiral Krev of the Crimson Armada was confident as he approached the human vessels. His flagship, the inevitable Victory, was twice the size of any human ship he could see. "Attention human vessels," he broadcast. "You will power down your weapon systems and prepare to be escorted to designated coordinates. This is not a request." On the Liberty Dawn, Admiral Collins received the message with a frown. "Seems they've chosen intimidation as their first response. Predictable, but disappointing." The Imperial Admiral grew impatient with the humans' lack of immediate compliance. He ordered warning shots fired close to the nearest human ships, close enough to demonstrate Imperial firepower, but not so close as to start a war. It was a serious miscalculation. Commander Susan Hayes, captain of the human destroyer Defiant, watched as energy blasts streaked past her ship, missing by less than 100 meters. "They're testing us," she said to her crew. Admiral Collins, requesting permission to demonstrate our defensive capabilities. Collins hesitated only briefly. "Permission granted, Commander. Non-lethal response only." Susan smiled. "Target their propulsion systems only," she ordered her weapons officer. "Let's show them what humans can do." The Defiant fired 3 precise shots. The Imperial officers barely had time to register the attack before their 3 lead dreadnoughts, including the inevitable Victory, lost power and began drifting in space. No Imperial shields had been breached, no lives lost. But the message was clear. The humans were not to be intimidated. News of the disabled Imperial ships spread quickly through the Empire. The Emperor could not ignore such a clear display of human technological superiority. With great reluctance, he sent a message to the Liberty Dawn, inviting Earth representatives to his palace for formal talks. Ambassador Daniel Martinez prepared for the meeting with care. As Earth's most experienced diplomat, he had handled first contact with 3 other alien species, but none as powerful or ancient as the Galactic Empire. "Remember, this is likely a stalling tactic," said Captain Olivia Fuller, head of his security team. Our intelligence suggests they're calling in reinforcements from distant sectors. Daniel nodded as he adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform. I know, but we still need to try the peaceful approach first. The Imperial Palace was a marvel of architecture, with soaring crystal towers and gravity-defying arches. Daniel and his small team were escorted through halls decorated with art and trophies from 1,000 worlds. Imperial nobles lined the corridors, watching the humans with barely concealed disgust. They whispered among themselves, not realizing human hearing was better than most species in the Empire. Look at those primitive apes, one noble said to another. How did they ever manage space travel? Olivia's hand moved slightly closer to her concealed weapon, but Daniel gave her a warning glance. They had expected this reception. The throne room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to show the actual stars above. The Emperor sat on a platform 20 feet above the floor, surrounded by guards and advisors. Ambassador Martinez, the Emperor said, his voice echoing. The Empire welcomes you, though your arrival was unexpected. Daniel bowed slightly, enough to show respect but not submission. Thank you for your hospitality, Your Majesty. Earth is eager to establish peaceful relations with your people. The negotiations began with basic introductions and explanations of human history. Daniel presented Earth's terms: recognition of human territory, non-aggression treaties, and open trade agreements. The Emperor listened, occasionally asking questions that seemed designed to determine human weaknesses rather than foster understanding. And what resources does Earth most require? He asked with too much interest. Daniel smiled diplomatically. Earth is self-sufficient in essential resources, Your Majesty. We seek cultural and scientific exchange more than material goods. While Daniel kept the Emperor and his advisors engaged, Olivia scanned the room with practiced eyes. Something felt wrong. The guards were positioned differently than when they entered, slowly moving to block all exits. She tapped a signal on her wrist communicator to alert her team. The other human security officers shifted their positions subtly, preparing for trouble. The Emperor's chief advisor, a tall green-skinned alien named Vorex, leaned forward. Before proceeding further, we would be honored if you would stay as our guests tonight. We have prepared special quarters for your comfort. Daniel recognized the implied threat immediately. That's very kind, but we must return to our ship. Admiral Collins is expecting our report. Vorex's expression hardened. I'm afraid we must insist. Olivia moved with lightning speed as Imperial guards reached for their weapons. She pulled Daniel behind a pillar as her team activated portable shield generators. This meeting is over, she announced, her voice calm despite the chaos. Any hostile action will be considered an act of war against Earth. The Emperor raised his hand, and the guards hesitated. There has been a misunderstanding. My guards are merely performing standard security protocols. Daniel wasn't fooled. Of course, Your Majesty. Nevertheless, we will return to our ship now. Olivia's team formed a protective circle around Daniel as they backed toward the exit. Imperial guards followed at a distance, weapons ready but not firing. Once outside the palace, Olivia activated their emergency transport beacons. The humans disappeared in flashes of blue light, rematerializing aboard a shuttle that quickly departed for the Liberty Dawn. Daniel looked out the viewport at the gleaming Imperial capital below. They were going to take us hostage, he said quietly. Olivia nodded. Yes. And now they know we have teleportation technology too. As their shuttle approached the human fleet, Daniel composed his report to Earth. Diplomacy had failed, just as they had expected it might. The question now was what the Empire would do next, and how humanity would respond. Deep in the Imperial Intelligence Headquarters, analysts worked day and night to understand the humans. They studied video recordings of the diplomatic meetings, examined scans of human physiology, and reviewed the performance of human ships. This can't be right, said the lead scientist, a bug-like alien with compound eyes. According to these readings, the humans come from a planet with gravity nearly twice what most sentient species can tolerate. His assistant checked the numbers again. "The readings are correct, sir. They evolved on what we would classify as a death world." This revelation spread quickly through Imperial Command. It explained so much about these newcomers: their dense muscle structure, their quick reflexes, their seemingly boundless energy. Humans weren't just another species. They were living weapons forged by one of the harshest environments that had ever produced intelligent life. Aboard the Liberty Dawn, Fleet Admiral Kevin Porter briefed his captains on the failed diplomatic mission. At 60 years old, Porter had spent most of his life in Earth's military, fighting in wars that the pampered Empire could scarcely imagine. "They underestimate us," he told the assembled officers. "They think because their empire is old, they must be superior. They don't understand that Earth's history has prepared us for this moment." On the main screen, he displayed a timeline of human military history, thousands of years of war and peace, victory and defeat, each conflict driving innovation and adaptation. While the Empire has enjoyed peace for millennia, humanity has been testing itself against the ultimate opponent, other humans. We've compressed what might have been 10,000 years of gradual military development into just a few centuries. The Imperial agents who had managed to infiltrate human communications were shocked by what they discovered. Humans had already established colonies and systems the Empire had classified as uninhabitable. Where Imperial citizens required perfect conditions, humans had simply adapted, building underground cities on airless moons and floating habitats in gas giants. On the engineering deck of the human cruiser Dauntless, Samantha Wright demonstrated this adaptability firsthand. When an important sensor array malfunctioned, she repaired alien-designed components using tools improvised from Earth equipment. "It's not pretty," she told her team as the system came back online. "But it works." Sometimes the perfect solution isn't as good as a working solution right now. The Emperor, meanwhile, had run out of patience. Despite warnings from his advisors about human military capabilities, he ordered a full attack. 1,000 Imperial warships jumped into position surrounding the human fleet. "Surrender or be destroyed," came the Imperial ultimatum. "You have 1 hour to comply." Admiral Porter received the message calmly. "Prepare all ships for defensive maneuvers," he ordered. Pattern Omega-7. The human fleet began to move in ways that the Imperial tacticians deemed physically impossible. Ships accelerated and changed direction with no apparent regard for inertia. Smaller vessels flew in formations so tight that they seemed connected by invisible tethers. "How are they doing that?" demanded the Imperial fleet commander. "No species can withstand those G-forces." The answer came when the first Imperial ships opened fire. Their energy weapons, powerful enough to crack moons, splashed harmlessly against human shields. These weren't ordinary defensive barriers. They were revolutionary fields that bent space itself around the human vessels. "Target their command ships," ordered the Imperial commander in frustration. "Concentrate all fire." But the human fleet was already executing its counterattack. Admiral Porter had deployed his most advanced technology, weapons developed in secret over decades, designed specifically for this moment. "Remember," Porter told his fleet, "minimal casualties. We're here to end their aggression, not their civilization." As the battle unfolded, news spread throughout the Empire. For the first time in 10,000 years, Imperial forces were not just being challenged, they were being outmatched. And the humans weren't even using their full strength. As the battle raged between human and Imperial forces, something unexpected happened. The Liberty Dawn received a coded transmission from within Imperial space. It didn't come from the Emperor or his military. It came from a species called the Tellarites. Admiral Porter called for Ambassador Kren of the Tellarites to be brought aboard immediately. The alien who arrived looked nothing like the Imperial ruling species. Kren had 6 limbs and golden fur covering his small body. His large eyes blinked nervously as he was led to the command center. "For centuries, my people have served the Empire," Kren said in a soft voice. "Not by choice, but because we had no option. We have waited for someone strong enough to challenge the Emperor." Porter studied the small alien carefully. And you believe humans are that challenge? Kren nodded eagerly. You fight differently. You think differently. And most importantly, you show mercy where the Empire shows none. This revelation changed everything. The Tellarites weren't the only ones. As word spread about human resistance to Imperial forces, messages arrived from dozens of subjugated species. Some had been part of the Empire for thousands of years, their cultures slowly erased, their people treated as second-class citizens. Chief Intelligence Officer Michelle Rodriguez led the effort to verify these contacts. A veteran of Earth's intelligence services, she knew the value of allies and the danger of traps. The Tellarites check out, she reported to Admiral Porter. Their biology is suited for mining operations, so the Empire has used them essentially as slaves for generations. But Michelle also uncovered something far more disturbing. While processing intercepted Imperial communications, her team discovered plans for weapons that violated even the Empire's own laws. They're preparing to deploy planet killers, she told Porter, her face grim. Weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. They're desperate enough to use them against our colonies. Porter immediately authorized a covert mission. Lieutenant Ryan Campbell would lead a team to infiltrate the Imperial weapons facility and disable the superweapons before they could be deployed. Ryan's team consisted of 6 of Earth's best special operators. They moved through the Imperial facility like ghosts, using technology that bent light around their bodies. The Imperial guards never knew they were there. These weapons are abominations, Ryan whispered as they placed disruption charges on the main power conduits. According to the Tellarites, the Empire has used them before to eliminate species that wouldn't submit. While Ryan's team worked, the Emperor's chief advisor, Vorex, reached out to the humans with a surprising message. The Emperor wishes to negotiate terms, Vorex said, his holographic image floating above the Liberty Dawn's command table. He recognizes the impressive capabilities of human forces and seeks a peaceful resolution. But Major Andrew Peterson, monitoring encrypted Imperial channels, detected the lie immediately. Admiral, they're stalling, he reported urgently. They're redirecting their main battle fleet to our position while keeping us talking. Porter nodded, unsurprised. As we expected. Keep Vorex thinking we're considering their offer. What the Empire didn't realize was that humans had already prepared for this betrayal. Hidden human ships had positioned themselves throughout Imperial space, ready to reveal themselves at the perfect moment. Even more surprising to the Empire was what happened next. 3 Imperial worlds officially announced they were declaring independence, inspired by human resistance. The planet Nexus Prime, an important industrial center, switched allegiance to the Human Alliance. 2 more frontier worlds quickly followed. This is unprecedented, Kren told Porter, his fur standing on end with excitement. No one has ever defied the Empire like this and survived. The Emperor was furious when he learned of the defections. Destroy them all. He ordered his commanders. Use the planet killers if necessary. No mercy. But when Imperial officers tried to activate the forbidden weapons, they discovered Ryan's team had been successful. The planet killers were useless, their control systems fried by human technology. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Emperor faced not just a military threat, but a revolution from within his own empire. And at the center of it all stood humanity, newcomers to the galactic stage, yet already changing its fundamental balance of power. The Emperor made his final play. From every corner of the Empire, warships were summoned. Old battleships were pulled from reserve fleets. Training vessels were armed and pressed into service. When the massive armada was complete, it numbered 50,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled in the galaxy's history. This ends now, the Emperor declared to his assembled admirals. The humans and their allies will be crushed utterly. Admiral Porter watched the Imperial fleet gather on the Liberty Dawn's tactical display. Even with their technological advantages, the humans were outnumbered 10-1. Time to implement Operation Thunderstrike, Porter announced to his officers. Operation Thunderstrike was a battle plan unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. It wasn't created by advanced computers or alien technology. Instead, it was based on ancient Earth naval tactics, adapted for space warfare by historians and military strategists working together. "The Empire expects us to fight like they do," Porter explained. "They've never faced an enemy who thinks like humans." As the Imperial Armada advanced, Communications Officer Laura Wilson began broadcasting on all frequencies, but she wasn't sending military commands or threats. Instead, she transmitted evidence of Imperial atrocities, records of planet killers being used against civilian populations, proof of species being enslaved, documentation of cultural genocide across the galaxy. "Let all beings hear the truth," Laura said as she worked. "Let them know what the Empire has been hiding." The broadcasts reached not just the rebellious worlds, but also loyal Imperial planets. Citizens who had only ever heard official propaganda now saw the dark reality of their government's actions. The effect was immediate. More worlds began declaring independence, and Imperial ships began reporting crew mutinies. The Tellarites and other former subjects officially joined the human fleet. Ambassador Kryn's small ships weren't as powerful as human vessels, but they brought vital knowledge of Imperial tactics and weaknesses. When the battle finally began, it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Imperial commanders expected a head-on clash of firepower. Instead, human ships executed complex maneuvers from Earth's naval history, feints, pincer movements, and strategic retreats that confused Imperial formations. Vice Admiral Jason Carter led the most daring assault. His strike team of 20 fast attack ships aimed directly for the Imperial flagship, the massive dreadnought where the Emperor himself was watching the battle. "Remember your training," Jason told his pilots. "They expect us to attack their weapons or engines. Instead, we're targeting their communications array." The attack was perfect. Imperial defenses were focused elsewhere as Jason's ships slipped through and disabled the flagship's ability to coordinate the fleet. Suddenly, 50,000 Imperial ships were fighting without central command, their carefully planned attack dissolving into chaos. On the mining ship Prospector, engineer Matthew Cole was executing the most unusual part of the human battle plan. His vessel wasn't built for combat. It was designed to break down asteroids for their minerals. But Matthew had repurposed its powerful cutting beams into weapons that could slice through Imperial shield systems. "Mining equipment makes surprisingly good weapons," Matthew told his nervous crew as they approached their targets. "Their shields aren't designed to stop industrial cutting tools." The Imperial commanders were bewildered as mining ships disabled their most powerful dreadnoughts with improvised weapons they had never considered a threat. In the confusion, a small team of human special forces led by Commander Nickel Barnes boarded the Imperial flagship. Their mission: capture the Emperor alive. As elite soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat, they moved through the massive ship with precision, neutralizing guards without killing them. The Emperor, realizing the battle was lost, attempted to escape in a personal shuttle. He nearly made it to the launch bay when Nickel's team intercepted him. "Emperor Draxor, in the name of Earth and the free worlds of the galaxy, you are relieved of command," Nickel announced as her team surrounded him. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Emperor of the galaxy stood defeated, his expression one of disbelief as he surrendered to a species he had dismissed as primitive just days before. 1 month after the Emperor's capture, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a star at the edge of what had once been Imperial territory. Delegates from Earth sat alongside former Imperial worlds and long-subjugated species. They came together to form something new, the Galactic Alliance. The grand meeting hall was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some breathed different atmospheres and needed special suits. Others had evolved under different gravities or radiation levels. Yet all had come with a shared purpose: to build a future based on cooperation rather than conquest. President Elizabeth Stone arrived from Earth to sign the historic treaty. At 70 years old, She had never expected to represent humanity at such a moment. As she entered the hall, alien delegates stood in respect, a gesture they had learned was important to humans. "We come not as conquerors," President Stone said in her address, "but as partners. Earth has never sought to replace the Empire with our own rule. Instead, we offer our strength as a shield for all peaceful worlds." The former emperor watched from a secure viewing area. He would stand trial for crimes against sentient beings, but even he was treated with the dignity that human justice required. Admiral Porter, the man who had led the human fleet to victory, became the first High Commander of the Alliance Defense Force. His appointment was symbolic, proof that the new alliance would defend its members against any future threat. Military strength must serve peace, not domination, Porter told the assembled delegates. The Defense Force will include ships and personnel from all member worlds, not just Earth. For many former Imperial citizens, the most shocking aspect of the new alliance wasn't the defeat of their military, but human concepts like democracy and individual rights. The idea that leaders should be chosen by citizens and could be removed by them was revolutionary in a galaxy accustomed to eternal dynasties. "You mean your leaders can be replaced if they fail?" asked one former Imperial governor with amazement. "Without violence or coup." "That's the foundation of our system," explained a human diplomat. "Power belongs to the people, not to rulers." Scientists Patricia Evans and Eric Johnson established the first Interspecies Research Institute, where knowledge would be freely shared. Under Imperial rule, scientific discoveries had been ported and controlled. Now, breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and transportation began to improve lives across thousands of worlds. The Galactic Archives, once filled with Imperial propaganda, were amended to include Earth's history. Archivists were stunned by the diversity of human cultures and the speed of human development, from primitive technology to interstellar travel in less than 5,000 years. "Most species take 3 times as long to achieve what humans have," noted the head archivist, his tentacles waving with excitement as he studied Earth's records. In the Grand Plaza outside the Alliance headquarters, a small human girl named Sophia played with an Imperial child. The two couldn't speak each other's language yet, but they communicated through gestures and laughter. Adults from both worlds watched with hope. This was the future they had fought for. Above the new Alliance capital, ships of many designs patrolled peacefully. Human vessels flew alongside newly commissioned Alliance ships, and former Imperial cruisers repurposed for exploration rather than war. They represented not just military power, but the promise of discovery and cooperation. Far away, on distant worlds once oppressed by Imperial rule, people looked up at the stars with new feelings. Not fear of what might come from space, but hope for what they might find there. Colonies across 1,000 systems prepared for a new era of exploration and cooperation. And at the center of this transformation stood humanity, newcomers who had accomplished in days what others had dreamed of for millennia. A species that had emerged from its violent past, not weakened but strengthened, ready to offer both protection and partnership to a galaxy in need of both. The Empire was gone. In its place stood something better, built not on fear, but on the uniquely human belief that freedom and cooperation could create something greater than any empire.